Great. Hi, Lana. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm glad that you are my going to be my first guest on season two of the podcast. Everybody, Lana Shapiro is a holistic mentor, Reiki Master, astrologer, and mystic. And she is a local businesswoman here in Buffalo, New York. And we spoke briefly at the end of season one, kind of last year, but I know you were trying to get your business up and moving. So we decided to kind of wait for the next season so you have things better going with your business and where everything is headed. So I would love if you could share more about exactly what you do and why you came into this line of work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So, I actually come from a mental health background. I was a mental health therapist for many years, most of my adult life. And as I was kind of going through my own personal journey of trying to have a baby, my job was very stressful at the time. Not only was I doing therapy, but I was only managing a clinic at that time as well. So just a lot going on. My husband and I were looking for a new house. So it was just a lot, and I was definitely under a lot of stress. And not surprisingly, we had a hard time getting pregnant, and there were really no health reasons for why. So I was kind of desperate, and a friend of mine recommended Reiki to me. And at that point, I haven't really heard much of Reiki. I was kind of learning a little bit about different alternative therapies. And I've heard of it, but I didn't really know what it was or what it entailed. And at that point, I was kind of like, I will try anything.
Right.
So I went to see this Reiki therapist, and right away she asked me what I did for work. And Reiki is all about clearing stagnant energy in your body. It's an energy technique that clears any emotional, physical, spiritual blocks that a person might be having. And she told me right away that my lower chakras were blocked. So there was energy that was blocked in those lower chakras, and that is where our safety center is. It is also where our fertility center is. And after that session, I got pregnant within a month. So
Wow.
after trying for over a year, and nothing kind of was working, and that's kind of how it got started for me and what turned me into a believer of energy work. And I always say, everybody's results are different, and Reiki is not, a cure for anything, but it is a healing technique, and it affects everybody differently. So after that experience, I really started to want to learn more about different energy techniques, alternative therapies, and having a baby kind of put everything on hold. Priorities changed, and after I had my son 3 years later, I experienced postpartum more anxiety than depression with him. Just a lot of irritability, short fuse, kind of felt like I was losing myself. And I didn't want to go on medications, which is the first thing that my doctor recommended. It was like, oh, let's just give you a pill and try to fix that. And I didn't want to do that, so I started walking. Like, I just need to get out of the house, I need to walk, and it became my daily routine where I would put him in the stroller. My daughter was in daycare, and I would just take him for walks, and I would do like 2 to 3 miles every single day, and it made me feel better. And I was like, okay, there's something to that. There's something to that, mind, body connection. And that's when I really decided to research more into it. And I enrolled in a program to become a certified health and nutrition coach, because then I started changing my diet as well and seeing, how eating healthy whole foods had helped to make me feel better. So I guess kind of through that personal journey of trying to heal myself is what led me to create my now healing center so that I can offer all these different services and classes and teach people about different holistic approaches and really everything that's out there that people might not be aware of.
Yeah, there really is a lot of new health modalities kind of out there. And even as I've been learning doing this, in the past year, I think that a lot of us in this, maybe in our generation, we've been used to just masking all of our symptoms and pain with medication. Um, and now all of us we're like, enough. We don't want to keep doing this. And we still don't feel any different. So
Right.
we are researching different ways to try to feel better and heal, which is what I was doing as well. Because ultimately you are the one that has to take care of your body. You hope that your doctors and your health team are on your side, and which I think they are, but they also don't know what they don't know on the opposite end of conventional medicine. So I definitely think diet, nutrition, you know, energy is our life. Our bodies are energy from head to toe.
Right.
And the more that we do learn and research about these other, modalities that we can somehow adapt into our daily routine can help. And if you do it with consistency, I think you'll definitely feel better. You just have to find which one works for you in a way that you can fit into your lifestyle. um Most of us who are listening, or the listeners, are moms, and it is hard because we don't have a ton of time during the day to go to the gym and do an hour workout, come home, shower, and it's just like you can't. That's not even fun for me. Like, I didn't enjoy going to the gym. So doing these other modalities like Reiki and yoga, Pilates, even just some sitting meditation and deep breathing or listening to calming music for 10 to 15 minutes is so much more calming and clearing than me, or for anybody else, lifting weights for 20 minutes. That's just
Exactly.
but
And
so
the
you
thing is that we often, as human beings, I think our nature is to try to run away from our problems by staying busy and by distracting, and like you said, that's just masking things. That's not really taking care of the root and the cause of the issues. So what we need to learn to do is actually get more into our body instead of trying to escape, which is why I am such a firm believer in breathing, meditation. And often when I say meditation, people are like, well, I can't meditate because I can't clear my head. And meditation's not about clearing your head, it's actually about noticing, connecting, and noticing what's
right,
going on.
and becoming aware of what the thoughts are actually entering. That is super duper important to remember too, because I think the minute I heard meditation, I was really pulled back. Like, I didn't, I can't meditate. I get too many racing thoughts. And I think the closest thing, like when you're a creator and you have that mind, I find a lot of it when I try to go to sleep, and everything is quiet and calm, and all of a sudden my mind is trying to rest, and I'm like, this is almost like kind of meditating, because all these thoughts are coming to me now, but I'm becoming aware of them. But I'm also trying to calm my mind so I can go to sleep. So that's the only thing that's really helped me with that, is keeping a notepad by
Yes.
my nightstand with a pencil, and I literally just write these thoughts or just words at night, and then this way I can come back to them in the morning. But kind of recognizing those thoughts, becoming aware of them, and then you have to get them out regardless, because if you keep them in, they are going to kind of fester
Mm-hmm.
into other things, whether it's, your life, your health, your family, aging parents, whatever. all those thoughts do have to kind of come to a head. And until we release those, I think our body holds so much stress and we can carry it in different ways that manifest into a chronic pain. So I do think that we are, as a society, becoming more aware that we have to really, really take care of our own body, physically, mentally, spiritually, all of it. And um, I love that there are so many different ways now. Um, but if you can you tell me, because you do more than just the Reiki, you do like astrology now, and then in your title you say mystic. What is that? That is very fascinating. What do you mean by that?
So when I started doing mind and body connection work, I felt like there was still a piece missing, right? That it's not just mind and body, that we really have to bring the soul piece into it. So that was when I started delving more into spiritual studies, and that's when astrology came into my life. And the type of astrology that I practice is called life path astrology, and that is based on your natal chart. So it's based on where all the planets were located at the time and the moment of your birth, and it's believed that your soul actually chooses when it wants to incarnate and what the lessons are that it wants and needs to learn during this lifetime. So I do believe
Hmm.
in past lives. I do believe that we bring lessons that we didn't learn in previous lifetimes into our current lifetime, and that is what life path astrology is. So those are the readings that I do for people, and they can be extremely validating. I've had people have these aha moments and realizations where they are really like they feel like, okay, now I understand my purpose. Now I understand why I act the way that I act, or I attract certain people into my life, or why I don't feel fulfilled in my job is because that's not what I'm meant to do here. So that's the mystical part that I bring into my work is really helping people connect with their soul and their higher self and their spirituality, which is different from religion. I'm not anti-religion, but I feel like often when people hear spiritual work, they think that it's going to go against their religion, and it's not like that at all. They really work together. So I always say it's all about, it's God consciousness. So it's whatever it means for you personally, and that's how you bring into doing this soul work.
Wow. Okay, that was beautifully explained. And I have heard of that before. And there are some, I guess, quizzes or whatever, right, that come across your social media. It's like, take your quiz, find your purpose. um, but yeah, finding your purpose. I do believe that all of us were put here for a reason. Your soul definitely attracts something that makes you feel passionate. And I mean, look, I'm 42, not 40. Oh my God, I'm 43 now. And I'm just finding my passion and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And, I do think when you're young, I mean, I always love to create and I always love to help people. I was the first to be like, oh, do you need a Band-Aid, mom? If she had a sliver or she cut herself in the kitchen. And I always, it puts a smile on my face and it makes me feel good inside. I'm a caretaker and a giver. And I love that. And but I never really thought of that as something that I would do, full, for my, I guess, my life, that would be my fulfillment. So it can take years, but never give up finding your passion and actually doing what you love every single day, because otherwise you're just going through life and going through motions and not really feeling, fulfilled in your life. And I think that we all deserve to live our best lives every single day.
Right, and it's about listening to those nudges, right? So
Yeah.
when I do individual life coaching for people, and I typically work with women, most moms, not all, but I tend to attract moms because that's where I am right now. And when women come to me, there's always that, like, I feel like I know what I need to do, but there's always that question, right? So what I really love to do is teach them to listen to those nudges, because the nudges, like, that's your intuition. And pay attention to where you feel it in your body. You know, if you're feeling it in your heart, if you're feeling it in your gut, they're going to keep coming back. So if it's part of your purpose, as much as you try to push it away, it's going to keep coming back, and it's going to keep coming back stronger and stronger until you really get on your path.
That is, yes, preach, mama. It is. It's like, yes, that is so very true. Because it's like, again, like with me starting this podcast or something, it's something that I wanted to do for like 3 years, but I just kept putting it off and putting it off. And I have other things to do. I'm a mom running kids around, but it's like all I thought about was doing this so I could get a message out to people to help those that struggle. And it did it. I'm just like, Jenny, you got to do it, because it was just literally driving me insane with all of this in my head. And I getting it out feels amazing, and kind of doing it full time and stepping back from the things that didn't fill my heart and my soul. Um, so kind of circling back to, I guess, you had 16 years providing regular traditional mental health counseling. So when you started your practice or wanted to kind of, step into a different, I guess, lifestyle, were you doing this part-time, or how did you step away from your full-time job?
Gradually, I initially started going to part-time as I started seeing clients on the side. So it really became a side hustle for me initially. And I really just, again, kept getting the nudges that, like, this is the path that you need to take. I would, as much as I loved people that I worked with at my agency, there was just this feeling of dread every morning when I would have to go into work. And I talked to my husband, and he was very supportive, and he could tell that I wasn't feeling fulfilled there, as I'm sure it was spilling into, my personal life. So I initially went down to part-time, and then I went down to per diem, and then I said, okay, now I just feel like I'm all over the place, like I'm running here, I'm running there. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna pull the trigger and I'm just gonna quit. So I quit in January of 2020 with this plan of going all in, and then March 2020 happened, and we all know what happened then. The world shut down. But I feel like it really gave me an opportunity to reassess where I was and what I really wanted to do and how I wanted to pivot my business. And that is when the idea of opening up a healing center was born. And it was one of those things that, again, there are doubts, there are questions. Can I do it? Is it going to be successful? The world is so unstable. But it was there, and it kept coming back, and I was like, okay, I'm doing it. So in May of 2022 is when I opened my doors.
Wow. That's awesome though. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome that you're filling your purpose, and you're loving what you do, and you're helping people, clear their minds and live better lives. And so that's awesome.
Right,
Can
and it
you
doesn't
tell
feel like work, right?
Right,
That
because if you
expression,
love
like if
what
you
you
love what
do,
you do, right? It doesn't feel like
exactly.
work.
Yeah. So you also work with children in like elementary schools and all that, right? Elementary age children, I should say. How do you find that children in that age range kind of take to Reiki or yoga and whatever it is that you kind of train them? Are some hesitant to be like, I don't want to do this? Or are they really, apt to trying new things and calming down? Because I know a lot of kids, obviously that age, are I think my daughter might have tried it, but my son, he can't sit still. It would be the last thing that he would want to do. Um, I mean, I would love it if he did, but so how do you get kids, that are kind of, I guess, more of the anxious action type, to, get into something like this, that to slow them down and really try to, help them calm?
Sure. Yeah. So I developed the Kids Mindfulness program a few months ago, and it really came out of, it was one of those, I say, divine downloads for me, came out of, everything that's happening in our world. Our kids went through COVID, the shooting that happened in Buffalo, the school shooting that happened in Texas, and it was one of those things where I was laying in bed at night, and these thoughts just kept coming back, and I'm like, I need to do something. Like, I have the training. I don't necessarily have training with kids, but I've worked in the mental health field for so many years. I have the training, and that's when I thought about developing this program for the kids. And I don't actually do Reiki for the kids, but I do a mindfulness class, and I break it down for them because I know they don't have the attention span. So we do 30 minutes of movement, and it's yoga, but it's age appropriate yoga. So it's not like, you and I would go to a yoga class and we would sit there holding the poses. We make a game out of it. So one of the games we play, just an example, is yoga bingo. So they all get these bingo cards, and then I pull out the card with the yoga pose, and they all look to see if they have it on their board, but then I say, okay, now we all have to try this pose. And because they are in a group, they all kind of like to show each other up and compete with each other, and it just it's fun for them. So it doesn't
Yeah.
actually feel, and kids are sponges, and they
Right.
absorb things. So I actually find that kids are more open to trying those kind of things than adults can be.
Right.
And then the way that I get them to settle down is I take them through EFT tapping technique, which is another energy healing technique which uses acupressure points. And what they do is I just have them, follow me along. I take them through different points on their body where they tap. But what they don't know is as they're tapping those acupressure points, they're actually slowing down their central nervous system. And that's where that help with like jitteriness and anxiety comes in for them.
Okay. Do you find that parents that have enrolled their children and then come back, do you do this like on a like a once a week thing? How often
Yeah,
do
so right
typically they
now
go?
it's a drop-in class, so they can, they don't have to sign up for like a program. They can bring their kids whenever they need to. Right now we offer it once a week. I might bump it up to twice a week. And I have some kids that keep coming back, and then I have some new kids. And what I love to see is whenever I have a new kid that comes in and they come in all nervous and anxious, by the end, you think that, we're best friends and they've been there for forever, and they just come out of their shell, and then I can't get them out.
Well, that's awesome.
Hmm.
Um, do you find that parents see their kids maybe when taking them those techniques and doing them at home? Have any parents kind of said anything like, "Oh, I found my daughter, tapping or trying to hold, a stretch or something if she found
Hmm.
herself anxious?" I'm curious about that.
Yes, I do. So I actually share my resources with the parents. So I give them the EFT tapping sheet that shows all of the points, and I encourage parents actually to stay and go through it with us as we're doing it. So they see the application, they see how it works. There's an affirmation that the kids repeat too. And I do encourage the parents to keep practicing it with the kids, right? Because just like with anything else, like it's fine if you do it once, but it's all about practice and consistency, and that's when it becomes that much more effective. But yeah, I had one mom whose kid plays golf, and she said he's always so anxious right before he gets out there, and she started doing tapping with him, and she said that it's been really helpful to calm him
Wow,
down and help him feel less anxious.
that's fantastic. That's awesome. I would love it if the schools could somehow incorporate, even if it's like 20 minutes of
Mm.
some sort of way for these kids when they are feeling anxious and stressed, because the world as we know it has never been so unknown. It's just crazy. There's just so much going on, and they definitely um, internalize all of this stress. This world is so, so stressful, and nobody teaches them how to become stress free. I mean, even us as adults, we still are like, the first thing your doctor asks you, are you anxious? Do you have anxious thoughts? Well, yeah, do you see that what's going on in the news? Like, I don't turn on my local news anymore. I can't, so but we at least know what's out there. We just have to take the time and, to do it for ourselves. But children, they don't know how to help with, like you said, decompress that nervous system because they're always anxious. And then they got belly aches. And, it's mom, I have either a migraine or I have a stomach ache. And I think even as a parent, it's kind of frustrating because what we know, or how we were raised, the world is just so different. But it's like you can't tell a child to calm down. They don't know
Right.
what that means. How do you tell a 7-year-old that's having a panic attack to calm down? So even if we try to say, okay, take a deep breath, well, and the kid's like, I can't, and they're literally hyperventilating. I had my daughter had a really, really hard time going through COVID. She had several panic attacks, and I've never ever seen her become so unhinged. It actually scared me from time to time. And honestly, it was a day-to-day thing that we just had to go, or just live our lives on a day-to-day basis because everything was just so unknown. Are they going to school? Do we have to wear masks? The whole virtual schooling that whole year was, oh my gosh, it was horrible. I mean, and being where I live, my internet is atrocious, so my kids would constantly uh, their internets would bump each other off of the internet. They kicked each other off all the time. There was screaming. I mean, and being home with these kids was like, like a max 100 level stress,
Yes,
all
I
day long,
feel you.
24/7. It was, yeah, it was hard to navigate, but I mean, I just kept reminding my children, we're all in this together. There's not one person that is not going through this. It literally is every human being in the world and every age group. We're navigating this all together. This has never happened before. And, trying to just listen to calming music or even music that makes you happy,
Mhm.
just to kind of refocus your mind or your energy, or I don't know. I always bring out like a heating pad. For some reason, I think heat is just comforting.
Yes.
That kind of helped a little bit, but
And when
it
it
is.
comes to kids too, like just like I do in my classes, right? Make it a game for them. So one of the breathing techniques that I teach them, like yes, I could tell them, inhale, exhale, but then sometimes they'll look at me and be like, okay, I don't know what that means.
Right.
So we do something where I tell them, okay, imagine you are holding a cup of hot cocoa in your hand and it's really hot and you want to cool it down. So let's blow on it and let's cool it down. So like that's one of the things that I do. Or I have them imagine
Nice.
that they're holding their flower, like their favorite flower in their hand, and I say,
Mm.
okay,
Hmm.
let's smell our flower. Let's like really inhale or take a deep breath in and smell that flower, and then let that breath out. It's like little things like that that they can
Yeah.
understand. And then again, it doesn't make them, it's not like you're there telling them, okay, you need to calm down, you need to slow down your breathing,
Right.
because like you said, at that point they're not hearing you.
No.
Another thing that I do is, and I actually do it with my son a lot, is whenever he gets anxious and or what he starts going through, like if he's having a tantrum over something, I put my hand on his heart, and
Okay.
then I put his hand on his heart, and I say, okay, do you feel how quickly that, like, do you feel that heartbeat? Like, do you feel your heart beating so fast? And I'm like, can you just like breathe with mommy, and then I will slow down my breathing, and then he will kind of follow suit, and then we'll be like, okay, your heart's not beating so fast now, is it? So then not only is it helping him to calm down, but it also distracts him from, whatever it was that caused him the tantrum.
Yeah, I love those ideas. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Because I definitely think as a parent, we don't know those things. So, yeah, that's definitely a technique you can completely use when your child is just not feeling themselves,
Hmm.
or having a tantrum. Hopefully anything helps that. It is just like the worst feeling as a parent, I think, is when you know that your child is just so upset about something.
Hmm.
And could be like because you put their drink in the wrong sippy cup, right?
Right, right.
And you're like, get over it, but you get so mad, and then you throw a tantrum, and you go
Hmm.
back and forth, and you're like, oh my God, I'm the adult, I'm
Right.
supposed to know what to do here, but you don't know what to do, right?
But that's the
So
thing, like when you do something like that, like with putting your hand on your heart and his hand on his
yeah.
heart, like you're not just helping him, you're helping yourself too, because you're forcing yourself
Yes.
to slow down.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Thank you. So, all right, can you talk a little bit more? And I did have a guest on last season that talked a little bit more about EFT tapping. I do find that I think that to me, that's a very intimidating type of practice because I feel like it's so, if you do it wrong, it might not that it might not work. I don't know if that's the right term, but because I know there's like a specific way to start, right? A specific spot to start, and then you
Hmm.
have to say words as you're tapping. But can you, in your words, I guess, kind of just go through a little bit about if someone wanted to try to do it, how would they start? Where would they start? What is your recommendation on that?
So I would actually say go on YouTube. There are
Okay.
so many videos on YouTube, and they have videos that are specifically for kids, and then there's videos that are specifically for adults. But I think we make it more complicated in our head than it needs to be. And I'll be honest with you, I myself was a little bit resistant to it when I took my son to see a therapist, and she recommended doing tapping with him, and I'm like, well, he's never going to do it. So like right away, I was already close to it. I'm like, there's no way my kid is sitting there going through all of these points tapping. And she was
Right.
like, well, can we try? I was like, okay, we can try. Um, and, of course, he did it with her. And then we came back home, and I'm like, okay, let's do tapping. And he's like, no. I
No,
was like,
I only did it
okay.
because I had to.
Right.
Right.
But I was like, okay, there's something to it. So I went on YouTube, and I found these videos that are specifically for kids, and they're set to a song, and it's this girl. So it's like somebody who's close to their age. And she took them like through the points, and like that he was able to follow along because there's this happy song, and he still won't repeat like the affirmations, but that's really because it's acupressure, you don't necessarily need to repeat the affirmations. I honestly think that's more effective for adults because we are so stuck in our heads that we need
Right.
that extra affirmation to help us reframe the thought process. Whereas with kids, I really feel it's more about just helping them slow everything down.
Okay.
But yeah, let's
All
say
right.
go on YouTube. You can download EFT tapping points, and it's just a picture, and it shows you exactly where the points are. And yes, there's a specific one you start with. So you typically start with the karate chop that's on your right below your pinky here. But then afterwards, it doesn't really matter what order you go in, and
Okay.
practice makes perfect. So after you go through it a bunch of times, it almost becomes automatic. You just kind of go into it. Like now we do it as part of our nighttime routine, and he just goes right through the points. Like he knows exactly where they are.
Wow, no kidding. Okay. And how old is your son?
He's 7.
He's 7. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Okay, so there's still hope. My kids are though 12 and 13, but they see me kind of doing these things. So I think that the more that they obviously see you do them, they're more apt to at least try it.
Hmm.
But I definitely
Sometimes it's bribery. So I say, I will give you 10 extra minutes with your iPad.
right.
Or you could stay up to 10 minutes later, and then, you promise me that we'll do tapping at nighttime. So it's just, figuring
Yeah.
out kind of what works for you.
Yeah, and sometimes it's tough love, right? It's like, listen, I know that life can be stressful and life is going to be stressful, but it's not the end of the world. And I think that that's something too to remind this generation is because they don't know what hard is. Everything is so easy to them. Google is at their fingertips and,
Mm,
everything is so instant that it's instant gratification that when you have a bad day, it's like, or not even a bad day, you I don't know, tripped over your lunchbox or dropped your water bottle. And it's like it ruined the whole day for
mm,
them. And they don't know how to kind of restart and just be like, you know what? It happens. Let's just go along our day and put that behind us. Why is it, it doesn't need to ruin the rest of our day and then essentially get so aggravated and frustrated that you think that that is like literally the end of the world, you know? So just letting them know, I guess, what kind of ways we can just calm ourselves down or what we can do, whether it is, just sitting in your room with no mute, just some calming, just go up to your room, do what you need to do or something you need to enjoy. And there's some I need to as a parent, and I keep telling myself I'm going to do this, but I now am at the part where, or the age where my children are, I have to put parental controls on certain apps or time limits because everything is just too available to them
mhm,
all day long. And it's just not helping their minds. Their minds are staying too busy and they're not, they're constantly in the sympathetic, is it the sympathetic system? And they need to
mhm.
get into the parasympathetic system
Yeah.
to kind of rest because they're having a hard time falling asleep. So, yeah. But so thank you for bringing this, your whole studio and your whole holistic wellness and health and wellness practice to everybody, at least here. Now, do you do any or will you do any, do you have like a YouTube channel or do you plan on starting a YouTube channel to help, you know, broaden, I guess, your range?
I don't. I tried starting a YouTube channel. I tend to get overwhelmed because I have so many different ideas and thoughts running through my head that
Okay.
I really need to focus on just like one track at a time. So right
Yeah,
now, like the studio is my priority in, getting evolved and adding more classes and more services. And I think with COVID, I'm just so burned out by technology and missing that face-to-face interaction with people that I want them to come
absolutely.
into the space and really get
Yeah.
away from the technology. I know that I will definitely be able to reach more people. So not to say that it's not going to happen, but not right now.
Okay. Well, I'm sure down the line as your studio gets going and you have more. Now, are you the main instructor in the studio?
I am. Right now it's just me. I do have, I run collaborative events, so I'm actually very open to collaborations with different providers.
Okay.
So I have done acupuncture. I have somebody coming in do it, so we do acupuncture and Reiki together, sound healing and Reiki, yoga nidra and Reiki. So I do have people coming in, different instructors and different business owners, where we put our talents together and offer multiple services at the same time, which has been beautiful because I think that just kind of helps everyone.
Absolutely. That's awesome to know. And if anybody's in the Buffalo area and has some sort of a health and holistic, type business that they would like to collaborate, reach out to Lana.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that's awesome. All right. Well, we're gonna wind down here, and we have a ton of, we got a awesome information from you. I just want to ask you a couple quick questions before we wrap things up. So if you could share, well, please share with us one thing about yourself that people may not know about you.
Hmm. What don't people know about me? I'm kind of an open book, so it's rare that people don't know something. I'm like, I
Do
just
you
share
have a special
everything.
quirk? Like, is there something like, you enjoy doing that people would be like, what is she doing? Or why would she do that? Or something that you like to eat, or, I don't know, something funny.
Hmm. Um, I'm originally from Russia. I guess that's something that sometimes
Oh,
people are
okay. Well,
surprised or like, oh yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
So yes, I was born in Russia. I was 12 when we
Wow.
moved to the U.S. So I have a little bit of that Russian background. Then I lived in New York City for a
Wow.
while, and then I moved to Buffalo. So I guess one of the things is that I have these, three different cultures that are kind
Wow.
of a part of me. And sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll be like, am I sensing an accent? And I'm like, yeah, sometimes it comes out. Usually, it's
Possibly,
like,
right?
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
well,
if
that's
I'm really
fascinating.
like excited or passionate about something, or if I'm really angry, like my kids, if I yell at my kids, they're like, "Oh, mom, you just said something that didn't make sense," and I was like,
You're like, bring it back to Buffalo,
"Yeah,
y'all.
yeah, exactly."
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, no, that's fascinating. That's awesome. I Buffalo born and raised. I haven't gone anywhere. So yeah, that's awesome. So, and one more thing, if you could just give us one piece of advice that maybe you remember, like something that's always in your head that you kind of always go back to, either a quote or just any type of advice to, anybody that is listening.
My advice always is that everything you need is already inside you. You have all the answers. So look inside and ask yourself what you need, what is in your highest good. Don't seek external validation, because what you truly need really is already in there. You just need to pull it out.
Aw. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. And that is so very true too. Wow. So I just want to sum up the episode here just so people have a little bit of a summary, and you can totally jump in. I was just writing some notes. So when people ask what actually is Reiki, do you say Reiki or Reiki? Is there a specific way to actually pronounce that?
I pronounce it as Reiki. Some
Reiki.
people
Okay.
say Reiki. It's Japanese, so I think unless you are Japanese, we're probably all saying it wrong.
We're all saying it wrong, right? So Reiki is energy and it clears blockages. When we talk about mystic, that equals your soul connection, life path astrology, and reading a needle chart. That's what it's called. That's what you called it. Ways to help your younger child calm down, to imagine that they're blowing on a flower or some hot cocoa to help them slow their breath down. And when it comes to tapping, maybe I can link if you have like a special account that you follow of, like for children, I can put that in the show notes. But
Yes.
to reach out to YouTube to find different ways of tapping, especially for kids, but I can put that in the show notes.
Great. Yes, I will send you the YouTube account of the person who actually took tapping and geared it more towards children. So he
Okay.
practices it with his daughter. They're older videos. His daughter is probably an adult now, but at the time when he did create it, he would do it with her, and she would kind of practice as he was guiding her along. So, yeah,
Okay.
I'll send that one to you.
Perfect, perfect. So before we actually sign off here, let everybody know how can they connect with you? Do you have a website? What are your social media handles? How can they find you?
Sure. My website is shapiroholistichealth.com. It's just my last name, holistichealth.com, all one word. And on social media, it's Soul Healing Center. That's the name of my center. So
Okay.
both Facebook and Instagram, if you type in Soul Healing Center, it should come up.
Okay. And I will also put a link to all of that in the show notes so you guys don't have to try to write everything down and remember them. But they will be in the show notes as well. And if you have any questions about anything, you could reach out to Lana. I hope that you got a lot of information out of today's episode. And thank you again so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and all the different type of techniques. And hopefully we can help this generation um, try to de-stress a little bit less and somehow help them, manage their anxiety in this crazy world that we live in today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Thanks so much, Lana. We'll talk to you soon.